How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about a classic horror movie, and not just a classic horror movie, but a strong contender for greatest horror movie of all time. And this, of course, is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. This is from 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on the book by Stephen King. And I do want to say, if there are any of you guys out there who are kind of horror newbies, make sure you get Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. There's a made-for-TV version that came out later that was Stephen King trying to make it more like his book. Stanley Kubrick's version, clearly the best, and if you haven't seen the story before, go for this one. Anyway, this stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, and Scatman Crothers. And yeah, this is a great movie, in no two ways about it. A strong contender for greatest horror movie of all time. A lot of people, when they do the list, it's either between this or Psycho. And this movie, I really love it. Now, that being said, there's hours upon hours upon hours of people talking about this movie on YouTube, going into full, deep analysis, and I don't know exactly what all new I'll have to offer, but I do want to say my piece on it, even if I'm not treading over too much new ground. I do want to, say what I think. And this movie is really great. That hotel atmosphere, that insane acting of Jack Nicholson, really, really cool stuff. And yeah, let's go ahead and analyze it. I'm gonna do, first off, a really quick summary of the plot. No major spoilers, but let's talk a little bit about the setup here. We open up with Jack Torrance. That is actually kind of a weird thing with this movie. Two of the leads, Jack Torrance played by Jack Nicholson, and Danny Torrance played by Danny Lloyd, have the same names, actors and characters, so that is kind of funny, but helps you remember who's who, I guess. But Jack Torrance, he's a struggling writer, trying to get off the ground and trying to make a name of himself. However, he's an alcoholic and he's not had too much success, and he's getting a job as a winter caretaker of this hotel. It's this really nice resort hotel up in the mountains of Colorado, designed for seclusion. However, the mountain roads get snowed over most of winter, and you can't really ski there because you're literally trapped. And they need someone to stay at the hotel while it's secluded and cut off from the world, because they need to make sure the hotel's maintained and it doesn't fall into a state of disrepair. But yeah, this is going to be a lonely, isolated job, but luckily Jack wants to work on his new stage play. Yeah, everyone assumes it's a novel, but if you read the book, it's a stage play. Jack wants to work on his play, and he's going to bring over his wife, Wendy, and young son, Danny. But Danny's troubled. They don't quite know what's up with him. He has his imaginary friend, Tony, and whenever Tony talks, he does this. And, yeah, there's something up with Tony. Well, they take him down there. It's closing day at the Overlook Hotel, and while everyone's leaving, Danny meets a cook, Dick Halloran, who has the same thing that he has. And Danny finally has someone to understand what's wrong with him, or not really wrong, but what's different with him, and he finds out for the first time in his life what exactly it is. The Shining. The Shining, a form of extrasensory perception, ESP. He can see things that have happened way in the past or way in the future. He can hear people's thoughts. He has The Shining, and him and Dick can talk to each other without using any words, just in each other's heads. But Dick explains that the hotel isn't really the best place for a young kid with The Shining. He says that people shine, but sometimes so do places. And the Overlook Hotel, a ton of terrible things have happened here, and in turn, visions of its horrific past can come out and surprise you. But they're just like pictures in a book. They can't harm you, just ignore them and stay out of room 237, okay? That's a bad one. Just like pages in a book, they can't harm you. I don't know about that. Anyway, they stay in this hotel. Jack's trying to write his play. Wendy's actually doing the work. And slowly, cabin fever starts to set in. Jack gets more and more cranky, angry, aggressive, and is starting to lose his mind, and the isolation isn't really good for any of them. But of course, the ghosts are starting to show up, make their presence known, and yeah, some really good creepy ghost in this one. So anyway, for the analysis, where do I start? So many things to say with this movie. I guess first off, the big one, atmosphere. The internet lately has been going nuts over liminal spaces, and you want a good liminal space movie, The Shining. This movie, a nice, big, luxurious hotel, empty. Big, empty corridors. The whole place is like a maze. And you're snowed in. You can't leave. You're trapped. Cold, cold atmosphere out there. The tone of this movie, the sets, everything is just so beautifully creepy. That cold sense of isolation, sense of what's going to be around every turn. The Overlook Hotel is such a creepy set, and I can't sing its praises enough. But also, let's talk about those characters. Obviously, first we have Jack. And Jack Nicholson gives this character a great performance. This is a guy that, you know he's bad from the beginning. But to see him get crazier and crazier, to see Jack Nicholson pull some crazy expressions, do some crazy lines, and even though he's crazy, even though it is totally bad stuff, you can see where he's coming from because of Nicholson's performance, you know? You see the things that have made him mad in his life. You see him trying to work and not getting the work done that he wants to, and just getting so angry. Yeah, there's his face on the box. And yeah, it's this really, really great villain played perfectly. But we also get Danny. Danny's a cool character. You see him and his special abilities, so he can see the ghost easier than anyone else. And you get like the really fun scenes where he's on his big wheel riding around inside the hallways of the hotel. And boy, you do not know what's going to be around every corner. Great scary stuff. Also, really good innovations in Steadicam technology for these scenes. That's pretty cool. But also, when Danny gets further and further into his gift, it kind of, isn't him getting like stronger and more action-packed. You can see towards the end of this movie, he might start to be losing himself in this gift, which is a whole nother creepy thought. But then I want to talk about Wendy. Wendy, I feel, is a really underrated horror movie heroine here. A lot of people sing the praises of all these other horror movie heroines. And the thing is, Wendy screams, Wendy gets scared, but she's in The Shining, of course she's going to. It's a horrible, terrifying event, but people don't give Wendy enough credit. She is doing everything right. And in fact, there's a point in this movie where if it wasn't for the ghost, she would have won way, way earlier. And you look at what she does and how she prepares and how she reacts to things, and yeah, she's screaming, you can't blame her, she's scared, but look at what she's actually doing. She does everything right. And on top of that, when it comes to actually running the hotel, yeah, we never see Jack doing any of the work he's supposed to do, and it's all Wendy going around and checking the boilers and stuff. And yeah, Wendy is a super underrated heroine, and I really do like this character as well. But another thing I want to say about the movie, the clues, the deeper meaning, this is where you get a lot of those hours of YouTube footage of people analyzing this movie, and it does a really clever thing. The first watch of this movie, you can watch this movie 100% on base level and enjoy it. You don't have to analyze The Shining, and it's still a really good movie. But it ends on one shot, and I won't spoil it, but I feel that the ending of The Shining is an invitation. It says, hey, look at this last shot. That's really weird. What does it mean? And it's an invitation for you to go back, rewatch the movie, and try to analyze and understand it. And I feel like a lot of modern filmmakers, when they do a movie that you're supposed to rewatch several times and try to get it, a lot of them neglect the importance of having a fun initial first viewing that's crucial to make you actually want to rewatch the film. So yeah, surface level's good, but the ending says, go back and watch the movie again. There's little strange things, little things that don't add up. What are the clues, and what does The Shining really mean? And that is a question that has got a lot of people pondering and puzzling. It almost becomes like a conspiracy. What is The Shining really about? And I will say with some of that, there are some people that come up with like crazy out there theories, and I mean, good for you if it gets you thinking, gets you learning about how films are made. But that being said, I won't deny some of the Shining fan theories are pretty out there, but you also get some of them that try to deny anything is like it's all Kubrick, all his genius, and they try to deny any of King's input at all. And no, this is still, even though they changed a lot based in King's work, but I hate it when people go, like there's a ghost in here, Miss Macy, and people call her the Hag because, oh, I know in King's book it's Miss Macy, but this is Kubrick's version, it can't be Miss Macy. I'm like, no, don't go that far, guys. That's Miss Macy. We see Jack wearing a Stovington shirt. We even see the book of newspaper clippings, which is directly from the novel, and it's there in the movie, even though they never reference it. But anyway, in regards to these things, yeah, people can go a little nuts, and the whole idea that Kubrick could never ever make a mistake, and don't get me wrong, I think a lot of it is intentional, but you get people that analyze like this chair that disappears between shots, and I'm like, that's probably just a continuity error, right? But I do really like analyzing it. I do like looking at the theories, and I do like trying to dig deeper. And there's a bunch of things, For example, the Grady twins, the ghost of a former caretaker's young girls that were murdered in the hotel, we see them as twins, the exact same age. Yet when Ullman, Jack's boss, talks about it, he says, oh yeah, 2 girls, 8 and 10. 8 and 10, but the ghosts are twins. What's that about? And then there's things like the title cards changing, units of time, months later, days of the week, times of the day. What's that about? What's with their spacing? And people will analyze things like, I think there's an object in the river of blood, or I think I hear a word really low at this point in the movie. And I don't know how much of that is real, but it is definitely intriguing. And then, of course, you gotta mention 2 of the prevalent theories: Native Americans and the moon landing. The moon landing, I guess, is the big wacky one. Danny wears an Apollo 11 shirt, and there's a few references to the moon landing, and because Kubrick also directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, that got people thinking he faked the moon landing and shot the footage, and people point out the imagery in this movie, and that's a big theory. Again, not necessarily one I believe, although I did hear a theory that Kubrick put that in there just to mess with people in this way, and I think that's fun, but I think the moon landing references have another point, and I'll get to that in a second. The other big thing in this movie is Native Americans. The hotel was built on a Native American burial ground, and when you learn about the history, they say they even had to fight off attacks while the hotel was under construction, and while it's built on a burial ground, they still decorate the hotel with Native American imagery. And a lot of people point to, the disrespect behind this. But I think these are part of the clues as to what the movie's about. And my take on the theme is it's about circular violence, repeating violence, violence that happens again and again throughout human history, and we see this on 3 scales. The family, Jack Torrance, an alcoholic who keeps saying he'll get better, and yet he never does. Over and over again, gets drunk, he broke Danny's arm in the past. It's a repeating cycle on the family level. Then we get a little bigger with the Overlook itself, finding out about its history and how many people died here and all the horrible things. But then with those decorations and symbolism, we see the violence on the larger scale. Throughout this movie, we get references to American and world history, like the Native Americans and the moon landing, and I think where that imagery takes, like what it's for, is the moon landing was a recent big triumph of human engineering. It's something that we can be proud of, yet why we do all this stuff, why we say we're proud, why we say we're being innovative, we have to look back at our violent past, like how we treated the Native Americans. It's saying we're striving to be forward, we're striving to be better, but we do have baggage, we have ghost, just like the hotel and just like Jack in his personal life. So that's really what I think the themes are about in this movie, but of course, tons and tons of additional theories on YouTube. But anyway, to more technical specs, the movie itself is a little over 2 hours. I think like 2 hours, 23 minutes. But boy, you do not feel it. The movie chugs along at a good rate, and you get engrossed, and next thing you know, over 2 hours have passed. It really is engaging, even though the plot is simple. Family goes into an abandoned hotel, quietly goes insane together, right? But even though it's not a super complicated on the surface level plot, and in fact someone did a video pointed out that it basically tells you in the beginning what it's about. Tells you Jack's an alcoholic, tells you he broke his son's arm, and even they tell you about the last caretaker who went crazy and went after his family. They set everything up. It's not a big mystery there. You know, it's so simple, but the underground complications make it really interesting, and plus just shot so masterfully and so well, you get really engaged in it. Whenever a ghost shows up, you know, the ghosts are used just the perfect amount. Any more and it would be too on the nose, any less it wouldn't be any fun at all. But they show up just enough to scare you, just enough to make you go, what was that? Make you wonder about their origins, and make you wonder how they're tied to the characters and what they're going through and feeling now. I actually heard that they were trying to do a prequel TV series, which would have been the Overlook Hotel in the past and seeing how some of these ghosts died. That would have been really cool. Sadly, it never got off the ground. But yeah, I love all the different ghosts in this show. It's really great. Now that being said, I've sung its praises for a while, and I can't finish the review without noting someone who didn't sing its praises, and that would be Stephen King himself, the author of the original novel. And I always felt that this was kind of sad. This is one of the greatest horror movies of all time, if not the greatest, and the author of the book doesn't like it. A few things he didn't like. I mean, the base story is the same. It's a lot of the details that have changed, but, you know, he didn't like what they did with Wendy, but like I said earlier, she's actually pretty underrated, and he felt the movie was really cold. And yeah, it is really cold. And the thing with that, though, is it's cold, but that's what it was trying to be. This was supposed to be a cold, cruel, and dark movie, and I think when you look at The Shining, the book, and The Shining, the movie, I like them both. They're both very good, but in two very different ways, and I think this is a case of the adaptation and the source material being different, but they're both really good, kind of like the first season of The Walking Dead. So I know that they are different, but I mean, if the product comes out this good, I can't complain. Like I said earlier, King would do this made for TV. I think it was like a two-parter or something, and why that is more faithful, no one remembers it, sadly. It might be interesting if someone went out and made a really good faithful adaptation, but at the point, this is too hard to ignore right now. But anyway, I don't know how long I've rambled on. Like I said, one of the best horror movies of all time. In addition to getting to the movie, I would encourage you, after you watch the movie, to take a look at a few fan theories, take a look at people saying what they think the meaning is, and if you want to get even deeper, find those crazy fan theories. There's so many cool stuff, like, I didn't even mention it. I love the architecture. The Overlook Hotel, I said, was like a maze. Look up people who have tried to map it. It changes, and that could be continuity errors, but I think the hotel is supposed to have intentionally disorienting geometry that doesn't even make sense. Ullman's office is in the middle of the hotel, yet has a window looking outside. It's supposed to be disorienting, and I really love the map of the hotel. Check that out. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. this should be my Stephen King playlist. I've talked about a few of his other movies like The Mist and The Langoliers, so if you want to see me talk about more King, you can find that here. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Stephen King playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.